Welcome back to Freedom to Learn podcast. My name is Guru SV4U. I'm founder and CEO of Silicon Valley for You. And for those who are not familiar with this podcast, please subscribe and press on the like button. You'll see a lot more episodes coming your way. Also, you can look at our other podcasts that we have done. So today, we have a very special guy. The reason I say very special is because he was one of my first interns slash mentors of Silicon Valley for You when I first started Silicon Valley for You.
Yep.
And so there, I call it ancient times because we used to go to places and teach. So Chris Horton, and he had a very interesting journey. And so we are going to talk about all that. At the moment, he works for defense in Colorado, but he's going to talk more about his journey and what he's doing and how this whole thing evolved over a period of time. So anyway, welcome, Chris.
Thank you. Thanks, Guru. So happy to be on the podcast. That was such a pleasure to have you invite me here.
Yeah, thank you very much. So as I said before, right, you have a very fascinating, at least for people, from, who are trying to come to America. So they find it very fascinating because you're born here and you obviously brought up here and your parents are from Bay Area. And then, so why don't you talk about your beginnings and then what got into coding in the beginning, and then we'll just go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the first time I really got into coding, I was, I don't know, probably 12 years old or so. And I was starting to look at colleges, starting to look at a future of my life. I was looking kind of a step past high school. What do I want to get out of high school? What do I want to get out of my life? And really thinking critically about all that. And at that time, I really wanted to go to college on a baseball scholarship. And so I was going to a lot of showcases and doing that kind of thing, trying to get a college baseball scholarship. And so one day I found a website that it's called Max Preps, and you can post your videos and your statistics and all of this. And I was like, okay, but how can I provide value to a college recruiter who's trying to look me up, who's trying to recruit me? And how can they sell me to whoever they need to sell me to? And so I ended up creating a website for myself that was separate from Max Preps, where I could tell my story a little more in-depth, intimately, where I can tell them really who I was without just the scores, just the statistics. I could post my own videos. I can do all of the advantages that the web brings us. And so that was my jumping off point. I still remember that first night. And I think everybody still remembers kind of that first experience, that first dive in with coding, where you realize that you could create something really cool and bring a lot of value out to the world. And so I stayed up, probably 2, 3 a.m. just working through a Code Academy course, trying to learn HTML, CSS, JavaScript. What even is the website? What is the web? What is HTML? And so yeah, from there, I just dove deeper. I had this purpose of bringing, I've said it a couple times, but just bringing value out to the world. I wanted to help people be their best selves, and I struggled a bit academically, and so I wanted to help people academically do better and get more organized. And so I made a planner app for those struggling students. I got into app development at that point, so I can make an iOS app on Apple.
Yeah, to be honest, when you were talking about
and then
go ahead, sorry.
No, it's okay. I was going
to say that, the ones you mentioned, that those I still remember. I mean, the bring back memories. I remember you talking about, man, I had a bad day in the baseball game. so I remember that. So coach put you on the bench or something. So bottom line is, so I'll tell you, you know that, right? My son played baseball. I know very well, and I know the game.
Yeah.
I never played, but I know the game pretty well. So I guess the comparative level of any of these sports, I know a lot of times, especially boys, they get carried away with sports, comparative leagues, spending like 5 days practices, 2 days playing, and a whole 9 years. And
Yeah,
unless you make it to at least college or at least minor leagues, at least whether it's baseball, basketball, football, it doesn't matter. You have no
hmm,
future. In other words, the percentage of people they can really build career out of it is very, very small, unless you become
absolutely.
you pick on a, like agent or some other a non player type career. Um,
Yeah,
which you don't need game for that. So to be honest, even I can become a good analyst if I want to.
right.
You don't have to. Point I'm trying to make is that the same amount of effort if you put into software and coding, I'm telling you, the results are going to be guaranteed. And even if you are, if you look at the spectrum of, careers in the tech industry versus sports, even if you are in the average spectrum of tech career, you're doing extremely well. And whereas you have to
Absolutely.
be extremely good, 1% of the people in the world to have,
Yeah.
playing on Warriors team. I'll tell you right now, on Warriors team, after two deep, I don't think I can even name the player. I mean, I don't even know that guy. You know how hard it is to be a third deep, fourth deep guy on bench on Warriors team?
Yep.
It's crazy
Yeah.
hard, and I don't even know that guy's name. In other words, God knows how long his career is going to last. After 2 3 years, he's going to be gone out of the league. So anyway, there is that. But I mean, I think that got you started, and then subsequently you worked for Silicon Valley for you. You taught Python, you taught Scratch, and maybe JavaScript as well. So why don't you talk about that a little bit, and then so then we can go on to your voyage sessions. It's like so yeah. So
Yeah.
talk about your experience with Silicon Valley for you and your association.
Sure. So like I said, I started it in 2016. I was right smack dab in the middle of high school. And you gave me opportunity to travel around, to meet new faces, to really impact some young lives. It was an amazing opportunity. Um, I my primary job was as a software instructor. So like you said, I taught Python, Scratch, JavaScript. Um, and then from there, we dived into some deeper topics. I taught a couple on machine learning with Akil. We did a couple web development projects, a couple just projects in general for some local small businesses. And yeah, I got to travel all around the Bay Area and just teach a really valuable skill to people who may not have otherwise had the opportunity to learn it, or just dive deeper and really impact some kids' lives and
Yeah.
help their outlook on the future so that they could be more empowered to take control of their own life and realize that they have a purpose, that they can do great things as long as they put their mind to it.
Absolutely. So that's the part one. Other part is, you yourself was very young, right? You're still young, by the way. Back then, you're much younger. Thing is that the thing that misses in the current system is we call it continuous learning. You also have to be a mentor while being a mentee. So although you're learning and you're going to schools and whatnot, but you never get a opportunity as a mentor to be a mentor as a student. So because
Yeah,
you are a student for the next 20 years. And unless you choose to go to colleges and become lecturers and whatnot. So point I'm trying to
yes,
make is that allows you to be a mentor to someone. When you become a mentor, you really comprehend the things that you learn, right? Because you are teaching and the kid can ask any question real time, and you
yeah,
have to be in a position to readily answer that. For that, you have to prepare. Second thing is a lot of intangible things that comes with it. For instance, some kid just takes off, and I think we had a couple of incidents where
yeah,
they just And also, like, like, you know, the customer satisfaction, right? At the end of the day, student and parent has to come back and say, hey, we like Chris classes, right? That's what they used
Absolutely.
to say, by the way.
Yeah.
And then if they don't say it, we can't continue, right? So bottom line is, you at very young age had an opportunity to understand how your services can be pursued by others. And if that has to happen sooner than later, that's the another problem, in my humble opinion, in the education system, is you have to wait for 20 years at least until you finish your undergrad to validate your services. Is anyone going to accept what I do? So if
Yeah.
you don't know, that's a long journey to test it out. That's called job, right? We call it job.
Yeah.
That's what happens, right? You finish. I've been there. You finish your undergrad. You go to these interviews. That guy says, "Oh, you're not selected. Other guy is selected," and
Right.
or they didn't select anyone. Who knows? I don't know what happened. So I got few. I didn't get some of the jobs. The point I'm trying to make is, if I'm not qualified to get into this industry, we call it job, why did I get the certificate from the college? Why
Mhm.
didn't college say, hey, you're not ready? And or and then that's part one. Other part is, why am I investing 20 years of my life in something called education where nobody wants my services? Like, nobody wants to know
Yeah.
what I know. When I say service, at least they have to appreciate what I can bring to the world. And
Absolutely.
if they don't, then why am I investing all this time? And just tell me ahead of time. So this is where, since we can change the system, so what we are trying to do through Silicon Valley for you is to give that opportunity, so that when you get humbled, sometimes we're all young people, right? We have certain perception about ourselves, and then we think we are good at this, we are not good at that, whatever, right? You don't know until somebody validates and say, oh, by the way, you're good at this. Oh, I myself realized that, oh, okay, I didn't know that I was good at this, because someone
Yeah.
else told me, because I had no clue until that point. I remember once I was standing in the vegan line for my food, because I'm vegetarian. One guy comes up to me and says, oh man, you eat vegetarian, but you look very strong. Until that, I'm not joking, until that point, no one told me that I'm strong. I never thought
Yeah.
I'm a strong guy. I never thought that.
Yeah.
I mean, first time I realized, I still remember, oh, okay, man, some people think I'm because the point I'm trying to make is that validation has to happen at various stages of your education. Otherwise, otherwise, what happens is, it becomes too late. Suddenly, you realize that this is not, maybe this is not for you. Maybe this is
Yeah.
not. That's why people are not appreciating it. So anyway, so that, I think, the yeah, obviously you did an excellent job, and we had good feedback, and I mean, we had a lot of fun episodes too. I remember we went to some place, I forgot the town name. They complained left and right about, not you, complained about stuff in general. So anyway, so talk about, I remember, like, subsequently just took off and you went to Germany. So talk about that. What prompted you to go there? And then just talk about your experience. Even I'm fascinated to hear that.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's been a heck of a time, I'll tell you that much. It's been a whirlwind for me too. Like, well, so like I said, I started coding at a fairly young age, for my peers, and I put a lot of pressure on myself to be the best, to get an amazing job, to like, and I was always looking for the next step, the next step, the next step. And after high school and after 2 years of college, I kind of looked back and I was like, I've been doing this my whole life and I haven't really ever questioned it. Um, and I kind of just went, I dove into it super fast. I loved it. It was amazing. And some things came up that made me doubt myself, um, doubt my choices, doubt just myself in general, whether I could, pass those tests that you talked about. And so I got an amazing opportunity in Germany to fly over and stay for a summer at that point. And it was just to do a summer job. And so I ended up going over there and just kind of feeling out my life, feeling out what I wanted to do. We were very close to an army base. And so I got a million different perspectives from all over the United States and all over the world about how different people chose to live their lives. And I realized Silicon Valley is a total bubble of how people choose to live their lives. Like I was around a bunch of army enlisted guys that had never even seen college, heard of college, basically. And yet it was expected for me. And so it really made me double check, like, okay, like I fell in love with aviation at one point when I was also pretty young. And it was kind of a battle between myself to, do I want to go fly planes for a living or do I want to keep writing code? And it really came down to that. And so I actually ended up studying a fair bit of aviation in college. They had some opportunities here in Germany that allowed me to study over here for very reduced tuition. And so I ended up studying aviation over here and kind of wanting to combine my two best interests, which is aviation and then systems and engineering. And because I knew so much about aviation, I figured that programming the systems would come easily and really combine. And so that took some realization. I was like, no, I'm going to fly. I'm going to get my pilot's license. And I'm going to join the airlines. And then I was like, wait, no, I want to go code. And so really for the past 3 years since I left in 2019, I got to experience a different quality of life in Germany. I got to experience a number of different people with different experiences that all shaped me to who I am today and gave me the self-confidence to apply for software engineering jobs when I didn't believe in myself. Helped me believe in my skills that I wasn't so sure of myself.
Yeah.
And so,
man, this is fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's extremely interesting. I'll tell you that. I'll tell you why I think it's very interesting, because there are tons of conventional paths, well, sort of defined. Okay, you do this, you go to UC Berkeley, or you go to this, you go to UCLA, yada, yada, or some school outside of California, or blah, blah, right? And yours is completely from the left field, right? I mean, even when I was told that you're taking off to Germany, I was like, what? I mean, so because I'm pretty sure by now you would have realized there are a lot of people in Germany, they want to come here. So long story short, I guess coming back, I'm very happy for you right now, to be honest, because I call it, you learn by doing. You don't learn, I mean, because I'll tell you other perspective that I notice when I deal with students. Now we work with colleges, we work with 150 colleges. Students are fatigued by learning and kindergarten and all the way to right now they are Northeastern school or this, that. And there is one more, geez, like, okay, why don't you learn machine learning? Okay, man, okay. So now they're at a point, okay, I learned machine learning, then what? What happens to me? I mean, I learned enough, man. I mean, the point is that, so in other words, they are at a point, they want to do things so that anything and everything they learn until that point, if they have opportunity to apply, they're getting excited because they are able to see the fruits of all the labor they put in until that point. And on top of that, if you add, hey, by the way, while doing it, you also learn machine learning. Yes, that's what I want to do, because, and they can see the results, there is a sense of accomplishment, and it kind of translates to, especially with us, translates to the real product for a real customer. And so that's the whole solving a problem means, right? So you are taking on a problem and solving it for a company or a individual or whatever, right? So
a huge theme of my trip to Germany was finding purpose.
Correct. That's I was coming to that. Yes.
Awesome. Great minds think alike.
No. Yeah. So I was coming to the point I'm trying to make is that you learn by doing it. In other words, I can write a book and say, hey, you can go to Germany, you can do all these things, you can hang out with army people, all that. You can write a book now because you've done all that.
Yeah.
I can read. See, the school system is what they want. So if I want to do a project of going to Germany and do all this, they say, I'll give you this subject. I'll give you this book. Why don't you read and pass the exam?
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
And then you pass the exam, but you don't know where Germany is. Okay, you pass the exam, I'll take you to Germany. You don't know what to do there. So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So, but in your case, you got life skills. In other words, you got a perspective, as you said very well, right? Because you are born and brought up here, and you see only Silicon Valley, right? It's a bubble, and
Yeah.
you don't know anything else, and you're very young, and you don't know anything. At least I come from somewhere else. I have
Yeah.
at least two perspectives, at least two, yeah, if not more. And for you, literally, this is it, right? You don't know anything else. You don't know how people. I mean, is there a world out there? So when you go there, you got that perspective, which is how do you say it? It's more profound than reading about Germany and what
Yeah.
army people did, all that stuff, right? So that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And I think academics typically focus on getting the right answer. People talk about it a lot, but you study books and then you take the test and you get the right answer. But in the real world, when you get to the business, when you get to your job, nobody really cares about the right answer.
Correct.
It's about
Approach.
how you work with a team, how you find the purpose of the business to guide it in the right direction. And any number of people can have any number of right answers with how to deal with the situation. And so,
100%. You hit the nail on the head.
yeah,
I put it in a different words. I would say schools teach what, they don't teach how and why.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
the what is getting commoditized. So what you said is, for instance, if you take any leader, so to speak, and who did stuff in technology or politics or somewhere else, he's not actually doing the what. He's not coding. Steve Jobs didn't code.
Right.
And none of these guys, Elon Musk, he claims he codes, but who knows? He tweets, I can tell you that. So point I'm trying to make is that, the things that I call it unstructured world is unstructured,
Yeah,
schools are overly structured. And for
absolutely.
everything, there's a course curriculum exam, semester, course curriculum exam. If you fail, this is the process. If you pass, this is the process. You come to the world, there is no exam, there is no test, there is no semester. So you have single semester, that's it. So, and bottom line is you got to connect the dots, we call it vaguely, and then you figure out what you do and how you can be resourceful to the task. That is the teamwork, leadership, everything you
Yeah,
mentioned about. And it's very unstructured. Nobody's going to tell you, okay, here is the you starting point, this is the ending point. There is no such thing. And
right.
those things are not taught in schools. This is my segue into the next question. I call it gap between academics and real world. The gap
Absolutely.
is you're overly structured. You are in the process of overly structured. You're in the overly structured process for a very long time, at least until 21 if you do undergrad. Otherwise, less than that. After so many years, I take you and then hey, I in Silicon Valley for you. Let's say you go and teach Python. I had a person from UC Berkeley couldn't take on the camp, and he said, I'm not going to do it because I need more time to prepare. In other
Mhm.
words, this guy is supposed to be a Python developer. Point I'm trying to make is that with all the structure, suddenly you are thrown into the unstructured world, and you're like fish out of the pond.
Yeah,
And it when you are struggling, these things come out. You don't know how to talk to the other guy, or you don't know how to understand what other guy is saying. You're not punctual, you're not showing up on time, yada yada. Those are all artifacts of not knowing how unstructured or how unstructured world work, or how to connect everything you learn. So
absolutely.
yeah, so why don't you talk about that, right? You can combine your experience in Germany, and so talk about the gap between academics and the real world.
So I don't, I'll be clear. I like academics. I appreciate what it does for us. I appreciate how it sets us up for an unstructured world. I think with anything in life, we need to be prepared for something. And that preparation then leads us to be prepared for the unstructured. So you have to sit down and learn the language of coding first before you can go unstructured and come up with an idea to make a project. And so when we have a structured classroom, we need to not just sit in the classroom, but we need to use our heads and think about, okay, how do we apply this then from structured to unstructured? I love that framework for decisions and for talking about it, because unstructured is how the world works. And once you realize that, the world becomes so much more powerful to you. There's so many more options that you can do when you realize how big the world is and how much opportunity there is. And so the reason that I traveled and I got so much out of traveling was because I realized that the world wasn't just high school to college to job to, like starting a family one day. Like it's just a linear timeline. And I came over here to Germany and I realized, oh, it's not linear at all. It's, because I took a gap year for school and then went back to college and finished college, but I was working the whole time. And so my world kind of got flipped upside down. And I realized that the world is as structured as we make it.
Correct.
And so if you can understand that the structure in the world is there to provide rules, to provide safety, but then there's also this whole other side of interacting with people and creating your vision within those structures, but also just making it so much bigger and broader and amazing. And so academia, it's like the painter says, they talk about art and they say you have to know the rules in order to break them.
Yeah.
If you don't know the rules, there's no rules to break. And so once you learn the programming language, then you make the project and you make it so much bigger. And so I think that as we learn and as we progress throughout our life, as we learn more, we're able to provide more value to the world and reach out and just go bigger. And like, I really just want to emphasize that we all have purpose here to do something great. And how you do that is up to you. Don't be in the structure. Use the structures to your advantage, but use as many resources as you want, as you need to live your best life.
Got it. I have a couple of things to add. I want to give my perspective of what happened to you, and so that see, number one is I fully agree with you that you can't just go to the elementary school and say I'm going to build a company. You know what I mean. So it's not going to work that way. So you have to learn what for a certain period of time. I fully agree with you. Even in the education system up to lower middle school, you have to just follow the system as is, just learn a few things, math, English, and whatever, all these subjects. Same thing applies. You're absolutely right. First, you have to learn a programming language to get into tech or just using tech, whatever it is. First, you have to get in without thinking about how to solve a problem, because you have to, it's like speaking a language, right? If you want to write a book, first you have to learn the language, right? So English or whatever it may be. First, you have to learn semantics, syntax, and all that. I fully agree with you. Where I kind of differ is that once you are upper middle school and as you are forming your personality and forming your own decisions or thinking about all those things, you have to bring the blend of both, not just what. So for a simple example, right? I can speak for myself. A square plus B square equals C square. I remember sixth grade all the way to undergrad first year, they repeated the formula every year. And then every year I have to write the exam. And then if I don't, I fail. If I did, but never, ever, ever, no one told who is using it. Why do I need to learn this? And in other words, is it NASA is using it, or I don't know, in India it's called ISRO, and or construction engineering, or I don't know, who is using this? Where is the use case for this formula? It's surprisingly, I was at a college, private college here in Bay Area. They even today they don't know. The guy, they were answering triangle. Triangle, even I knew. So finally I told them, don't worry, I also don't know the answer. Even now I don't know the answer. I gave up because I'm no longer interested. So that is part one. I wanted to sort of, at some point, when you are, for instance, when you are working for Silicon Valley, for you, I wish you had a little bit more exposure towards problem solving, and actually how you can apply all the skills that you acquired back by then, so that you apply and you realize that, oh, I have to learn these things. Then you go and learn. Trust me, when you realize that this is what I want to learn, just like what you did with JavaScript, your drive is 100 times more than I have to do this, otherwise I don't get the grade. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's altogether a different game, and unfortunately we're all subjected to the later one, where if you don't do it, you're going to fail. And if you do it, you pass. What happens after I pass? You go to the next grade. Nothing. God knows what happens. So the second part, I wanted to give my perspective is, you thought your world was upside down when you went to Germany, all that. But because of the stereotype, because there is a system out there, you've been taught from I don't know, from elementary school onwards, like by your parents and maybe some peers, you have to do this, you have to go to college, you have to go to college, you have to go to, yes, college is important, don't get me wrong. But since you knew only that, just one single damage, since you didn't do it, and then you dropped out, you went to Germany and you went back to college, then you thought maybe what you did is the right thing for you.
Yeah.
Right now it's kind of proven, but back then you didn't know. But you were worrying that, man, why am I doing all this? I'm going backwards, or I'm doing it backwards, or whatever, right?
Yep.
And the point is that who is to say this is the backward, this is forwards?
Exactly.
But they are saying it. That's the problem, right? So not you. I'm a parent, right? Every parent today, if their kid says, "Oh, after high school, I'm going to take off," they all freak out. They go crazy, and how many calls I get, how many parents I meet on a weekly basis on Zoom, or there are some kids I met in person, because they think their kid is just out of control.
Yeah.
Because he said that something that doesn't follow the conventional method, and he or she, and then holy moly, the world is ending. And so I guess my point is that, so these stereotypes, I wish, these guys kind of make it, whatever there is there today, the education system, that can be a option, one of the options. I'm not saying that's bad. A person who is following is able to do it, is doing very well, is coming to him, is getting all straight A's, and he likes it, he or she. That's an option. But for those who is being under challenged or over challenged, there are a lot of people just get bored with this, or some people, they find it very challenging. This system doesn't give the option. They say you better do it. This is it. And if you don't, you're an idiot. If you do it, you're super smart. And I think that's where I have a problem, but in general, but we can't fix that. I'm stating the fact.
I agree. I think that the formula is not necessarily wrong. I just think it's incomplete.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That is meant for certain people, not meant, I shouldn't say, certain people are able to do it, and let them do it. Hey, good for them. But for those, so in other words, very simple, right? There's one school, there is one curriculum, one path. You're putting 10,000 students, right? In each high school has 10,000 students. They're all expected to get A+ grades. How is that going to, how is that possible? It's not going to possible. Everybody's different. And, for those who are not able to get if somebody goes and says, I don't like, let's say, geography. And you know what system says? Oh, go spend extra hour, go to get some tutoring. I'm telling you, I don't like this subject. You're asking me to spend extra hour. You know what I mean? So because I rather spend my time in coding. I don't do geography, but I make up that score in coding. Leave me alone. Just get the geography out of my And the day I realized that I need geography, I'll go and look it up. I don't know enough right now. I don't know enough geography right now, especially America. I never knew. I never studied. I don't remember studying. I'm able to figure it out. I'm not, do you think I had to pass this exam back then? It's some kind of a stress you are adding to a young human being when that person is not keen on learning a particular thing. And somehow we handed over those rights to the system, and especially our parents. And they, they somehow, we all feel that this is where it baffles me. The whole world feels that this is the only way things are going to work. If you don't if you don't study the way they structure, and if you don't go to college the way they're structured, you're a failure.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I don't buy that. That's not the case. By the way, after you see a lot of results, right? A lot of people that didn't do good in school, they're running the show.
Yeah.
The CEOs of big time companies, large,
Right.
and vice versa. There are people that are struggling too. They come from one of the top schools in the world, and at least I sometimes I wonder, oh, did you go to? Oh, wow, you went to that school? Oh, really? So, in the sense that somehow it's not translating that success to them because they were fit to that. They were very much, capable of doing that, but they never adjusted to this system, and boom, things were different now.
So I think the thing that's missing for a lot of people is purpose. And I think that school it could do better here, is as you go through school, you're exposed to a million different avenues, perspectives, like classes. You take geography, you take art, you take music, whatever it may be, you take, and then your core classes, of course. But I think for me, at least, when I started struggling with math, for instance, I was almost ready to throw up my hands and quit. But then I realized a purpose behind math, and I was able to double down and focus on that purpose and that purpose to drive me through. And so as school teachers, whatever it may be, I think that as we expose students to more and more perspectives and avenues that they could take their life, I think that each student needs to find their purpose. And so as they find their purpose, they can then take off with their life and they know which way to walk. And I think as we're saying, the formula of, elementary school, middle school, high school, college, and then job, it's too limited. It doesn't provide some students with any purpose. It gives them a formula and it tells them the next path to walk. And then as soon as they get out, they're stuck.
Yeah.
And so I think that as students, and I'm going back to school right now for a higher degree, and I had to realize why I'm doing that. And it was for a greater purpose, because I wanted to further my learning, and I really want to take certain aspects of my knowledge of computer science further. And so I would love if my teachers engaged me and really got me to figure out why I'm doing what I'm doing. And so the problem with like a lot of high schoolers, I'll be honest, is there's so much more to life than school. They have so many more extracurricular activities, relationships that takes them one towards their purpose or away from their purpose, or kind of just throws up their hands and does nothing with their purpose.
Yeah.
And so I think as educators and like even parents, we really need to encourage our students, our children, to dive further into like what your kid wants out of life. And if you see a kid with a spark, or even the kid who doesn't have a spark, try to engage that person and get them to realize that it's not just that simple formula and then you're set for life. Like, find something to guide your life that's not school.
Yeah.
Because school is a stepping stone. Like, I use baseball. Well, I imagine baseball would be a stepping stone to get me to pay through college. It didn't turn out that way, which is fine. But I came to Germany and I found a higher purpose that would guide my next decisions. I realized, okay, I want to study aviation and computer science. And then I got to study those things, and it shot me right in the fast lane to to more fulfillment in my life, and to better education, and to more concentration on the things that would really fulfill my life. And
Yeah, I
so,
mean, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
no, just if I want anybody who's listening to just come away with like finding your purpose, because that will help guide every single decision that you make for the rest of your life.
Yeah,
And it
I think,
changes, it grows, but find that and keep that and use it as your compass.
well said. So point is that I think I'm kind of alluding to the same thing. You're using the right word, I guess, purpose. What I was saying is that even when I talked about that formula or whatever, see, the thing is, you have to define, okay, here is the problem, this is what we are trying to solve. That's the purpose you're referring to. And then you work
Absolutely.
backwards. For instance, let's say, in the tech world, hey, we are going to build this app for the coffee place. Okay. So
Mhm.
in order to build the app for coffee place, you probably need to learn Python. You probably need some database. You need cloud, blah, blah, GCP, Amazon, God knows, whatever it is. So the point I'm trying to make is that when you have that purpose and there is a path to reach that purpose, while you are doing it, you also have to learn few skills.
Of
I
course.
call them tools like spanners, hammer, whatever, right? Those you need all that to build a big engine. So you need to learn because you never used hammer before. Now you're going to learn. That's how
That's
you learn, right? We all human beings. We learn, observe from others, and then I mean, I know I was not born with how to use spanner, right? We
of
picked it
course.
up and we learn it. So, but at the end of the day, if the way point, I guess you're also saying the same thing. The way it is structured right now is okay. Here is the spanner. This is to do this unbolt and bolt. Okay, now okay, then you pass the exam. Okay, let's move on to the hammer. So now I have this problem. Hey, you know what? You need to fix this my engine. I don't know anything about engines, sir. I know how to use spanner and hammer. So
Yeah.
you tell me this, give me the spec. You tell me, you break it down, everything, and then you give me the bolt. I turn it.
Yeah.
So point is that that is the not having a purpose. In other words, when they're turning, they get bored and they fizzle out. They just say,
Yeah.
okay, I had enough. I don't know. I want to drop out. It's not
Absolutely.
interesting to me. And so I think you put it very nicely. The word purpose. You are absolutely right. Once you have a purpose, I don't think there is such thing as somebody's good. I mean, the bad or something is good, whatever. They can reach their potential
Yeah.
for sure.
Absolutely.
And you know, if you're a gifted guy, you're born with it. Yes, there are apparently those things, those stand out, but at least you'll be one of the, you'll do well, and you
Yeah.
enjoy more importantly, you enjoy doing that, which is what we want in life, and you'll do well. So, so with all that, now what prompted you to come back to your mother country?
Uh, I got a job offer.
Okay, very simple. Yeah.
um, yeah, but I mean, like I mentioned, it was in line with what I wanted to do. It lined up with my goals, where I wanted to be as a software engineer, as you know, um, my place in my career, my place in my life. It allowed me to move to a place that I could further my career. And so I just took the next step. I think I was done with Germany, kind of ready to move on. I had finished school, and yeah, so I was kind of just ready to move on, and Colorado Springs offered a great place to go to broaden my horizons and to follow a career in aviation, because there's a bunch of defense contractors there. And I found this amazing job that ties in some of my knowledge of aviation and some of my knowledge in software engineering. And you couldn't get me on a plane fast enough at that point.
Yep.
Um,
Hey,
and so
we are glad.
I'm so happy.
Welcome back. Yeah. So welcome back. We are very happy that you're back. I mean, not that it's any bad being in Europe.
No, of course.
Yeah, it's
It's
a
good to be
beautiful
back
place.
home where people speak English again.
I was going to say that, but maybe you would have picked up a little bit of German by now. So
Oh, I did. Yeah,
that that
definitely.
that would help you in future also.
Yep.
Hey, it's glad, and I was going to say maybe I will talk to you offline also. we'll be glad to have you back with Silicon Valley for you. Just so you know, the offer is
Yeah,
on the table for you anytime.
thank you.
I know now. I'm assuming by now you've settled down and everything. So I didn't want to say it back then, but when now that you're settled down and you're ready, because we look for always part-time folks,
Yeah.
so you fit right into it. So I asked this fun question to everybody as the last thing. So what is the piece of technology that you think you need, or you just is something that it can be something, how do you say it, fantasy. You fantasize some kind of a thing that doesn't exist today. A lot of
Honestly, I
fun
think,
examples they give. People say, I want to, for
yeah.
instance, I want to take the dump of my experiences and then preserve it, and then in
Okay.
future I'll
Yeah.
put it back and then relive those moments.
I'm just like, honestly, an air fryer. Like I've been seeing them online everywhere. Just an air fryer looks awesome.
Yeah, yeah, I'm pretty sure. So I'm assuming you're dealing with a lot of drones for right now, and my gut feeling is drones are going to be
Mhm.
a lot more effective. I those some of these movies you might have seen where people are walking around, drones are generally roaming around on the top.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I think that's going to happen. I see. I see
Honestly, I
already.
think if I could dream big, something to one help in the Ukraine-Russian war and the gas
Yeah,
shortage that's coming to Europe, because prices in Germany are going to triple, even quadruple for gas, heating, gasoline for automobiles, anything like that. And so just geopolitically, I think that anything that would bring more gas, more electric, more any alternative powers to
yeah.
Europe in these coming months will save a lot of lives.
Well, electric is out there. I'm pretty sure everybody. I
Yeah.
was driving BMW electric cars, so
Yeah.
they. But I know what you mean. There are a lot of other places where they don't have alternative or facilities. They must use gas,
Just
and you are
something,
absolutely right. It's going to be
cheaper,
crazy right
more
now.
renewable, something that can help save some lives this winter because it's going to be a long winter for
A very long
everybody.
winter. Yeah, I mean, man, this whole thing is a pretty mess right now, and it is what it is. Hey, thanks a lot. I really appreciate and
Thank
taking
you.
time, and also I'm super glad to reconnect after many years. And
Yeah.
I look forward to speaking to you. Just to give an idea, as I said, you're welcome to join back. And second thing is, we also have a lot of projects that are going on. At some, if you want, I can walk you through the projects that we are doing at some point. And we work with a lot of colleges, a lot of students. They work on the projects, and so that gives you that extra learning opportunity. I know you're going to college, but long story short, you can potentially enhance your skills beyond what you're doing in your day job. And
Fantastic.
so, and for instance, just so you know, next week we are our partner is training all our interns on metaverse plus 3D,
Oh, awesome.
essentially. Yeah, so you can potentially create. See, what's happening is, since your time in, I don't know how much you're following. These
Yeah.
platforms are out there,
Yeah.
and what they are saying is they're giving these platforms to the enterprises and say, oh, you can build whatever you want. You can build metaverse. You can build um,
Okay.
AI. I mean, you can build AI solutions, or you can train models, and whatever you want. You can build websites, mobile apps, but nobody knows how to productize in the first place. How, if I take the platform, where do I start? So what we are doing is, we have these interns, students, and young people like you who want to learn these use cases, how travel agency work, how financial sectors work, healthcare works. And
Yeah.
those guys need people like you. 20, 30 years ago, companies, oracles, all these, when they started out, none of the non-tech companies had IT departments. For
Yeah.
instance, Wells Fargo has IT, all these, they have They have IT engineers better than tech companies nowadays, right? So back then there is nothing. So, these companies used to go and say, hey, I have this database. By the way, I also send you people. I will train you. I will set up your thing. I'll make sure that everything is taken care of.
Yeah, for sure.
Nowadays, that's gone. Now they are saying, oh, here is this. Okay, go and use it. But Wells Fargo can do it because they have a lot of IT infrastructure and people. There are a lot of companies don't have any IT, zero IT,
Yeah.
and they are
Still.
being thrown these platform at and say, oh, why don't you build your machine learning application? You don't need to do any coding.
Sure.
But that guy doesn't know what machine learning is. I mean, like, so, and he doesn't know, all he wants to know is, I have this problem, increase my revenue, get me more business.
Right.
So what we are doing is, I'm bringing these students to help them give that human touch and make the customer comfortable and say, oh, by the way, I'll do it for you. Don't worry. We understand your
Yeah.
problem. We
Awesome.
have these skills. We'll do it for you. You don't have to run this and then watch and see what happens. So that, they feel comfortable, and the cost is also their thing, right? So they don't want to waste too much money on these platforms and things like that. So anyway, I will speak to you on all those different different projects, all that, whenever we connect again. I know you're busy a little bit, but and I very hard to get hold of you, just so you know. So I'm just joking. All right. So we also do more podcasts, as time goes on. This is more like a introductory. I'll reconnect with you for the next podcast where, we take one piece of everything you did until now, whether it's the technology side of things or, going to Europe. And so we go deep down.
Okay.
Right now we just kind of, went from your childhood all the way to today. So
Yeah.
we are going to deep down so that, again, people get a perspective of, like certain things that you mentioned, that going there doesn't make you any less than somebody who followed this and then came out, both path. Sometimes that path may be a better option, and
Absolutely.
you can provide evidences because you are the expert. You did that. Somebody might have read it somewhere and don't know what's going to happen. So we'll do another podcast by going deep down in certain topics, and then hopefully people take advantage of it.
Sounds like fun.
Thanks a lot. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Guru.